From Licking Dog to King. Chapter 3 Wife. The financial crisis was barely resolved, and the entire studio breathed a sigh of relief. To show his appreciation, Wu Ling organized a welcome party for Lin Cece on her first day at work. The team-building venue was upgraded from a few hundred yuan KTV to the Shangri-La Hotel. All 8 employees of the company were present, waiting for her. Wu Ling, bored, stuffed a piece of dessert into his mouth and said, "She must be the favored little princess, even going back to change clothes, tisk." "She's the god of wealth," I said honestly. "She says she's here to work, but it looks like we'll have to treat her with utmost care." I had a vague sense of foreboding. Lost in thought, I heard a commotion outside the hall. Following everyone's gaze, I saw Lin Cece, dressed in a light pink gauze dress, appearing like a princess, arm in arm with Zhou Hanji, making a stunning entrance. Wu Ling teased, "The real god of wealth has arrived." I didn't expect Zhou Hanji to come. I always thought he disliked crowds. During university, there were often various events organized by the faculty, even those attended by school leaders, but Zhou Hanji always avoided them. He was aloof and somewhat unsociable. Every time, I would go to the school leaders to speak on his behalf. In hindsight, it was really unnecessary. I downed my drink in one gulp and quickly walked over. "Sorry everyone, my senior insisted on bringing me here when he found out I was attending the welcome party." The girl's shy and soft tone made it impossible for anyone to get angry. I politely said, "It's an honor to have you here, Mr. Zhou." After all, anyone who could stand next to Zhou Hanji now was either rich or noble. Wu Ling, hearing what I said, chimed in. Xu had wanted to invite Mr. Zhou before, but was afraid he was too busy. What a coincidence. This sister of mine, her well-meaning lies come so naturally. I forced a smile, only to unexpectedly meet Zhou Hanji's probing gaze. I felt even more guilty. Thinking quickly, I gave a signal to the host. The welcome party was about to begin. Wu Ling had always been talented at warming up the atmosphere, and with just a few words, she had everyone in high spirits. She suggested we play a game of Pictionary. It was a staple of our company events. In previous years, there were 7 of us, divided into 3 groups with Wu Ling as the judge. Now, with 2 more people, we added another group. Yes, Lin Cece pulled Zhou Hanji into the game as well. The young girl was eager, her face full of excitement. We drew lots to form teams. Unexpectedly, I ended up in the same group as Zhou Hanji. Lin Cece, standing next to me, noticed this too and visibly looked disappointed. To avoid any misunderstandings, I discreetly swapped paper slips with Lin Cece when no one was looking. Lin Cece gave me a surprised look but then smiled brightly. "Senior, you're the best." "No need to thank me," I said silently in my mind. "It's our duty to ensure the client has a good time." This went on until late at night. Seeing everyone getting drunk, I called the waiter to bring some strong tea, and handed it out one by one. When I got to Zhou Hanji, I stood a meter away, quietly watching Lin Cece carefully wipe the sweat from his forehead. The man had his eyes half closed, leaning against the sofa, with 2 buttons of his collar undone, revealing his delicate collarbones. His refined features were shrouded in a layer of fatigue under the alternating lights. He seemed drunk. Not wanting to disturb him, I turned to leave, but then I heard his hoarse murmur, "Shoo." I froze, my feet feeling like they were filled with lead, unable to move. Then I heard Zhou Hanji say, "Wife, don't go, okay?" The word wife hit me like a thunderbolt, my heart exploding. When I looked at Zhou Hanji again, I saw Lin Cece's shocked little face. Miraculously, our eyes met in the air. I reminded her, "Mr. Zhou is calling you." Such a tender and longing tone, it couldn't possibly be for me. Lin Cece was stunned, pouted, and gently tapped Zhou Hanji's high nose, playfully saying, "Senior, the party isn't over yet." Zhou Hanji opened his eyes slightly at her voice, a smile playing on his lips. Confirmed my suspicion. It was half an hour later when we finally saw off the god of wealth. Watching the departing Maybach, Wu Ling nudged me with her elbow, her tone comforting. "You worked hard tonight." I half joked. "Give me something tangible, Wu." Wu Ling rolled her eyes. "Ambitious." Despite her words, the rich lady Wu still thoughtfully drove me to my apartment complex and even granted me permission to skip the punch-in tomorrow morning. The mental compensation was quite satisfactory. But that night I slept uneasily. In my dreams that figure repeatedly appeared, holding me tightly in countless deep nights. When emotions ran high, he would grip my slender waist and coaxingly say, "Wife, say it louder." That was the unknown side of Zhou Hanji. Intense, possessive, but hidden from the light. I couldn't sleep. During the morning rush as the subway arrived, I squeezed out of the crowd like a sardine, only to find one of my wireless earbuds had been knocked out. Just as I was lamenting my loss, I looked up and saw a black Maybach parked not far away. In front of the car, Zhou Hanji, dressed in a suit, gentlemanly opened the passenger door with utmost care. Moments later, Lin Cixi, dressed in an orange-pink fitted dress, stepped out of the car, looking lively like a morning butterfly. He actually brought her to work himself. Rongyu Group and our studio are on opposite sides of the city. This meant that Zhou Hanji, who had morning grumpiness, had to spend an extra hour commuting. Thinking of the days I used to wake up early to make him breakfast and coax him out of bed, a tinge of bitterness filled my heart. The difference between people was so stark. I planned to avoid them. But just as I took a step, Lin Cixi's soft greeting reached my ears. "Senior, good morning." I couldn't ignore it, so I walked over calmly, my gaze briefly sweeping over Zhou Hanji's face, and politely said, "Good morning, Mr. Zhou." "Good morning, Miss Lin." Lin Cixi, ever the friendly one, said, "Senior, just call me Cixi." I responded briefly, feeling awkward about whether to stay or leave. It seemed Zhou Hanji had no intention of leaving immediately. I had to ask, "Is Mr. Zhou here for an inspection?" Lin Cixi covered her mouth and laughed. "No, Senior. The senior was worried I might get lost and not find the new company's address, so he brought me here." Just as I had guessed. I maintained my composure and said politely, "Mr. Zhou is always welcome to visit and guide us." Zhou Hanji glanced at his watch, his deep eyes suddenly focusing on my face. He said in a low voice, "Manager Meng, please lead the way." Wait, was Zhou Hanji planning to come upstairs with us? Lin Cixi seemed to realize it too, her eyes filled with undisguised joy. "Senior, are you coming with us?" Zhou Hanji smiled slightly, his voice low. "Yes, I want to see your work environment." It turns out just placing Lin Cixi in our studio wasn't enough. Zhou Hanji also cared about her daily work life. Chapter 4. I have someone by my side. Zhou Hanji's sudden visit took everyone by surprise. At that moment, Wang Jia, who had been working late, walked out of the pantry with a head of messy hair and a toothbrush in his mouth. This was a typical day for our programmers, but Zhou Hanji frowned slightly at the sight. Understandable. A small studio could never compare to a large conglomerate like Rongyu. I guessed that Zhou Hanji might be regretting placing Lin Cixi here. Lin Cixi herself didn't seem to mind, pointing to the spot by the window. "Senior, this is my workstation." Zhou Hanji remained silent. Following his gaze, I saw that he was looking at the workstation opposite Lin Cixi's. That was where I usually coded. On the desk, besides the desktop computer, there was an old black laptop. It was a prize Zhou Hanji had won in a competition during his sophomore year. One of the few gifts he had given me. It had good specs and I had been using it ever since. "Hey Senior, your laptop is the same model as the senior's." Lin Cixi noticed, her doe-like eyes looking at me. "Is it good for coding?" I didn't know Zhou Hanji had the same model. To avoid unnecessary trouble, I calmly said, "It's old, not as good as the new models." As soon as I finished speaking, Lin Cixi turned to Zhou Hanji. "Senior, what do you think? An interview one by one, huh?" Instead of answering, Zhou Hanji asked, "Do you want to change laptops?" Lin Cixi rubbed her nose. "I didn't pay attention to the specs when I bought the last one and got scammed by the seller." "You." It was a line meant to express frustration, but coming from Zhou Hanji, it carried a hint of indulgence. A bit at odds with his cold image. "Senior, are you going to call me stupid again?" Lin Cixi pouted, about to respond, but then sneezed unexpectedly. Zhou Hanji stepped forward in concern. "Are you catching a cold?" Lin Cixi sniffled, a look of panic flashing in her eyes. "Oh no, maybe it's a pollen allergy." Before she could finish, she sneezed twice more. I was about to say something comforting when Zhou Hanji said, "Get rid of these useless plants immediately." He was referring to the succulents and green plants by the window. Those were Wu Ling's treasures. I said awkwardly, "Mr. Zhou, these succulents are past their blooming period. You see." I don't want to repeat myself, Zhou Hanji interrupted firmly. Add an air purifier as well. I was left speechless. Lin Cece stood by, explaining. Senior Manager Meng didn't know I was allergic to pollen. Otherwise, she wouldn't have placed me here. She was referring to the spot by the window, a place I considered to have excellent lighting and privacy, undoubtedly the best workstation in the office. Seeing the innocent look in her eyes, I thought for a moment and said, we didn't consider it thoroughly. How about this? The office on the right is usually unoccupied. Why don't we let Miss Lin work there? Wang Jia, standing nearby, immediately chimed in. Sister Nanxiu, isn't that Mr. Wu's office reserved for you? He meant that Lin Cece wasn't qualified enough. Lin Cece understood too, shaking her head and refusing. It's okay, Senior. A couple of allergy pills will do. I'm new here after all. I don't deserve an office. Rules are made by people, and with Zhou Hanji as the investor, the rules were flexible. Sure enough, the next second, Zhou Hanji made the decision. Let's do that. Lin Cece looked at Zhou Hanji timidly. Senior, this isn't appropriate. His deep, unreadable eyes suddenly fixed on me, and I heard Zhou Hanji ask in a calm tone, Manager Meng, what do you think? For a moment, my well-concealed emotions cracked. I smiled and said, let's do as Mr. Zhou says. As Zhou Hanji wished, Lin Cece moved into the office. Wu Ling, who had rushed over, called me to the cafe downstairs to vent. This isn't an investment, it's a waste of money. I replied calmly. It's just an office. It's not a big deal. Wu Ling sipped her coffee, frowning. Aren't you worried this is just the beginning? How can I feel at ease going on a business trip? I dodged the question. Don't forget, Zhou Hanji is an investor. He won't let his money go to waste. Nor would Lin Cece. She needed this project for her graduation design. Besides, it's normal for the investors to find something to do. Back at the office, I called Wang Jia and Lin Cece for a meeting, assigning tasks as usual. Wang Jia immediately started working, but Lin Cece bit her lip, looking like she had something to say. I looked at her and asked, is there a problem? Senior, I don't have experience with front-end development. I was a bit surprised. Software students usually have various practical experiences in school. I picked up a related book from the desk and said, start with this. Ask me if you have any questions. Lin Cece nodded softly and returned to the office. I also immersed myself in work. I was busy until the lights came on. After quickly tidying up my desk, I headed out. I needed to get to the mall before it closed to buy an air purifier. The mall was bustling. As I stepped off the escalator, I suddenly heard a voice calling, Xiu Xiu. I turned in confusion and saw a middle-aged woman in a dark red velvet dress standing 2 meters away. I recognized her immediately, Shen Hualan, Zhou Hanji's mother. I hadn't seen her in 2 years, and she now looked every bit the part of a wealthy lady. Our eyes met and she quickly walked up to me, awkwardly tugging at her mouth. When did you return to Jinggang? I replied flatly. It's been a while. Are you leaving again? Realizing the awkwardness of her question, she explained, I have a few excellent young men around me. If you're not leaving, I can help you find one. You know, I've always liked you. I understood immediately. She was worried I would continue to pester her son. Indeed, I had gone to great lengths to please Shen Hualan because of my infatuation with Zhou Hanji. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was forced, sustained by my sweet words. Her wariness was understandable, but understanding didn't stop the bitterness that welled up in my heart as I looked at the once kind elder now eyeing me warily. She probably didn't know about my collaboration with Zhou Hanji. Nor did she know that Zhou Hanji now had Lin Cece. She was the one he treasured. Xiu Xiu. Shen Hualan's probing tone brought me back. You and Hanji. Auntie, no need to worry, I interrupted, meeting her gaze. I have someone by my side now. See, after 2 years with Wu Ling, I've gotten better at lying without batting an eye. Shen Hualan visibly relaxed at my words, but then a trace of panic flashed across her previously relieved face. Hanji, why are you here early? Following her gaze, I saw Zhou Hanji standing a few steps away. Dressed in a sharp tailcoat, he exuded a cold aura. Like a lofty god from a magazine, extraordinarily handsome. He was staring at me intently. but there was a clear trace of mockery at the corner of his mouth. Welcome to subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell and follow.